2 weeks ago, we had a woman struck by a bullet in her second floor apartment on Rosa Parks Boulevard. One story that hurts me the most was a 15-year-old who was shot on her porch. This was 2 years ago. It was December 13th, 2020, Director. I'll never forget that message you sent me. And I speak to her father regularly. She doesn't go back on the porch anymore. It's unfortunate that we have to be here. But it's even more unfortunate that you have victims of senseless gun violence. And I know I can speak on behalf of my fellow mayors. We want to protect our people, the people that put us in office, the people that we serve. During this pandemic, with the vaccine, we've done everything we can to save lives. And today we're standing in solidarity with legislative leaders and law enforcement leaders, letting everyone know we're here to save lives. That we have far too many victims. And so we're looking to reform bail reform. We're not looking to end it. We're looking to mend it. There's a component of the law that deals with gun possession. What we want to do is make sure that those that are arrested with the illegal weapons are detained so they're not back on the streets, either doing the shooting or becoming the next shooting victim. And according to data that we were able to obtain from our prosecutor's office, there are 195 individuals that were arrested on firearms offenses. 75 of those individuals were released, so there's no telling what they have done or are doing. We seized 219 guns last year, 200 the year prior. That's 419 in the span of 2 years. Can only imagine what could have happened if we didn't, Assemblyman, confiscate those weapons. This is what we're up against. But again, we're standing together, saying we're here to protect the people that we represent, the people that we serve. And so I'm honored that our Assemblyman, who we went with last year, has taken upon himself, accepted the challenge to present this bill in his chamber, and that is from the 35th Legislative District, Assemblyman Benji E. Wimberly.
Good morning. Thank you, Mayor. Assembly colleagues, the mayors of our distinguished cities here in the state of New Jersey, law enforcement. I did meet with Director Speziel and many of his staff members a year ago on this same issue. And the one thing that we will never forget, Mayor, is Genesis Rincon. Yeah. We will never forget Najee Bug. We'll never forget Armani Saxton. Yeah. These people's lives cannot be in vain. And we have to understand that we are not trying to end bail reform. We're making an amendment. Yeah. And I want to make that clear. We're making an amendment because I do believe in bail reform. I was part of that also. So we know that there are many people behind bars who shouldn't be behind bars. But when you deal with firearms, that's a whole different issue. So along with our chair, Gary Sher, Assemblyman Atkins here today, our assembly colleagues, our great senator here, who I only usually see on billboards, Senator Bramnick, good to see you here. Great to see you. And our Senate President Scutari. I am proud to sponsor A 2426. And there will be a lot more talk about the details of A 2426. But the bottom line is, you know, the mayor stated it and laid it out perfectly. We have to get illegal guns off the streets. Innocent people do not need to be suffering when you're doing something for your grandma. You do not have to worry about walking down the street and being subject to stray bullets. Right. So anything we have to do to address illegal firearms, I will be in the forefront. And it's not a New Jersey issue, unfortunately. This has become a U.S. issue across the state, right across the bridge. In New York, you see what's going on. And I think we all have to band together and come up with the best legislation that protects our citizens. So thank you, and I am proud to sponsor this legislation.
Thank you. And Assemblyman, if you could remember, we met with law enforcement leaders, chief, the deputy chiefs, and not even 5 minutes after that meeting, and it was 12 noon, we had a shooting on Broadway, and it was an innocent victim struck by a stray bullet. This is a bipartisan approach. There's no Democratic way or Republican way to reduce gun violence. And so that's why we're proud to have with us from the New Jersey State Senate, our friend, John Bramnick.
Nothing makes me feel better than to see Republicans and Democrats, legislators and mayors standing together with a sole purpose. And the purpose is keep bad guys with guns off the street. And it's been said, bad guys read the papers too. And when you speak to law enforcement, they will tell you. The bad guys know whether they're going to get detention or not. This is a minor change to our bail reform law, but it's a major change to policy in the state of New Jersey. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your leadership. Thank you, members of the legislature and mayors, and God bless what's going on today.
Thank you, Senator. Speaking of leadership, we have our leader here of the Urban Mayors Association, who happens to be the mayor of New Jersey's largest city. He's a champion for children. He's a champion for change. He's also a champion for reform. And so we're proud to have with us Mayor Rozelle from the city of Newark.
Thank you. Just want to echo the comments that were already made, and I want to thank Mayor Saya for the hummus when I had COVID, but I also want to thank him for inviting me here with this august body to discuss bail reform, reforming bail reform. Newark has also witnessed an uptick in shootings last year, an uptick in homicides last year. Major cities across America have record-breaking homicides and record-breaking violence 2 years in a row. Maybe when this is over, we can discuss or study or analyze why all of this violence is happening during COVID and why this violence is plaguing our communities the way it is. But right now, we have to do something. We have to do something about people who have guns in the street that are committing crimes, that are committing violent crimes, and find their way back to the street weeks later. Where you have people that were arrested for gun crimes and come out and become the victim of a gun crime. Or people who were arrested for gun crimes and come out and finally get their target that they were looking for 2 or 3 weeks before. There has to be a way for us to intercede and intervene, and we'll be able to do this and keep bail reform at the same time. So the folks that say that we're trying to dismantle bail reform, there's nothing further from the truth. We want a solid law that allows people who do not belong in jail because of financial reasons, the opportunity and a pathway to come home. We also want a pathway for those that are committing violent crimes to stay inside and not become a terror to our community, to our families, to our residents. That's merely what we're saying today. It's not rocket science. It's just our ability to get to common sense here, to pull everybody together and figure out how to keep our grandmothers, our children, our families safe in these very perilous and dangerous times. So thank you for inviting me. I support this 200,000%.
And Mayor Baraka touched on it. I mean, since the pandemic started almost 2 years ago, places like Albuquerque, Albany, I mean, it's all over the country, Lansing, Michigan. We talk to those mayors because we are in the Bloomberg network, and so we share stories, very sad stories during this pandemic. And quite frankly, we're seeing that the guns are getting in the hands of people who lack conflict resolution skills. And we're starting to see that some of our shooters are getting younger and younger. Assemblyman, you remember, at School 6, a 14-year-old was arrested with a .22 caliber with a high-capacity magazine. There's no telling what could have happened if that individual was not arrested. So we're starting to see juveniles with weapons. At this time, I'll call forward from New Jersey's capital city, the mayor of Trenton, my friend, Reed Gusiora.
Thank you, Mayor. When I served in the legislature, I voted for bail reform, and I felt that there was too many delays in between arrest and trial, and too many young people who look like me from the suburbs that had disparate treatment were more likely to get bail than the urban youth. But as the mayor of the capital of the city, I've also seen an uptick in not only violent crimes, but also shootings and homicides. And we have to be serious about the guns that proliferate in our communities. Trenton is just a stone's throw from Pennsylvania. Many of the guns that are engaged in the crimes are coming into our city from Pennsylvania. So we have to send a strong message that if you perpetuate a crime and utilize a weapon, that you're going to sit in jail. And there's no other way but to amend the bail reform to make sure that we keep safer streets, safer citizens, safer neighborhoods. And I congratulate the legislators who are promoting this legislation. Thank you.
Gentleman who has prioritized public safety in his city, another friend from the Urban Mayors Association, from East Orange, Mayor Ted Greene.
Good morning. Very quick, we all heard it, we're all seeing it. You heard the mayor talk about the tragedies and young people, tragedies and adults. We all seen and witnessed where folks can get arrested on a Monday with a gun, and then on a Friday, they're back out. You arrest them again on that Friday, then the following week, they're out. So again, I, as the mayor of the great city of East Orange, my chief here, Chief Bendy, we definitely want to make sure that we stand with so many mayors and our law enforcement here today. We also support the amendment of the jail reform bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Greene. Another friend who is a very eloquent speaker, very passionate about this topic, who knows that public safety is paramount, and that is the mayor of Plainfield, Adrian Mapp.
Well, good morning, all. I am here for the sole purpose of adding my voice to the clarion call from all of these mayors and state elected officials to make sure that we do the right thing by passing amendments to the bail reform. We know that we have been suffering from COVID for the past 2 years, and it's a pandemic, but gun violence is arguably the #1 health crisis that we are facing in all of our cities.
Right.
And so we have no choice but to do the right thing so that the bad guys that are destroying our communities and our families can be put away and not become the threat that they have been posing and wreaking havoc all across our cities. And so I am here to support my fellow mayors as well as state legislators to make sure that we have a reform of bail reform. And that's what we need in our cities. Thank you.
We've also been joined by the mayor of Elizabeth. We also consider a friend, and that is Mayor Chris Bulwich.
Thank you, Mayor Saya. My fellow mayors and legislators, Senator Joe Cryan is a major sponsor of the bill. Is my senator from the 20th District. He had surgery in his hip, so he can't be here, but strongly support all of his efforts in this area. Many years ago, when Mayor Bloomberg formed Mayors Against Illegal Guns, I was one of the earliest mayors to sign on with then Mayor Healy out of Jersey City. And that effort led to a lot of publicity in making sure that mayors fought against illegal guns in their communities. And when bail reform was created, it was something that was supported by many mayors throughout the state of New Jersey. Frankly, if you're a poor kid and you got caught stealing a hubcap and then had to sit in jail for a week or 2 weeks, bail reform was meant for that. But if you're a kid with a gun threatening our senior citizens or our business community, you belong in jail. And therefore, this amendment is extremely important for the safety of our communities. And as mayor of the 4th largest city, strongly support it.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Our last member of the team of mayors from the Urban Mayors Association is Mayor Donald Shaw from the city of the Borough of Rozelle.
Yeah.
Yes. Borough, right?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor Sayer. We are the smallest borough amongst the urban mayors. And I'd like to say that I support this bill, and I support the legislators and the mayors that are here 100%. Just Sunday night in the Borough of Rozelle, there was a shootout. Well, not a shootout, a shooting. 4 or 5 windows of this car was blowing out. And in that area, it was an area of about 22 houses that are nestled together. and by the grace of God, no one was injured. I'd like to say that, Mayor Sayer, you mentioned that the victims are getting younger, the assailants are getting younger, and from what I gathered, it's an individual that was under the age of 21. So I 100% support the reform of this bill, and I stand behind this legislation again and this group of mayors. It has to stop. We have to fix this problem, and this is the first step of doing so, so I am 100% on board. Thank you, Mayor.
So this represents a cross-section of people who care. And we have with us from the Sheriff's Association, the president, Jim Gannon. Sheriff.
Hey, thank you very much, Mayor. It's great to see the mayors here, the legislators here, and the police here on this very important topic, public safety and gun violence. Right? The police need support from the community and the legislator to keep the people safe. Right? The recipe for success is having laws in favor of public safety and support from the community. The men and women of the Paterson Police Department, of the Newark Police Department, of Elizabeth, of all these departments know exactly what to do. And they're out there every day risking their lives. I don't have to go too far to see what's happened across the river, right? Most recently with 2 officers being killed, right? It's a dangerous life for these police officers out there. They need the tools to accomplish this. Pretrial detention for defendants that are involved in gun crime. Okay? This is an amendment that needs to be supported by all the people. And it's nice to see people on both sides of the aisle coming together, because it's not statistics, it's faces. The mayors all mentioned faces of kids in the community, of the elderly, of the common working folk in the community that are affected by this directly. Don't people in our communities have the right to be safe in their own neighborhoods? I think there's a mental health component there. If there's shootings in the neighborhood, you don't go out. There's isolation and hopelessness for folks. That's what's going on. I don't think you ever get proper business and economic growth in an unsafe city. I mean, there's a lot of ripple effects here. So violence in the community shakes all law-abiding people to the core. As the president of the State Sheriff's Association, we support this and we applaud this. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Sheriff Gannon mentioned New York City. Unfortunately, 7 police officers have been shot this year. And it hurts whenever I listen to 1010 Wins, Mayor Barack, and I'm dropping off my daughters for school, and every other story is about a shooting. And they say, Daddy, why are there so many shootings? So Mayor Eric Adams, we feel your pain. We can relate to what you're going through. We're standing with you as well. We know that you have an unenviable task being the mayor of New York City, but you're not alone. You have friends on the other side of the river and allies. We have an ally in Regina Agia from the Garden State Initiative. We hosted a forum with former NYPD and LAPD Police Commissioner Bill Bratton last year, and we talked about this issue. So at this time, I'd like to bring forward Regina Agia.
Thank you, and thank you for all the support that's being shown today. We were proud to support the event with Mayor Saya, Mayor Greene, and Mayor Gosiora back in October. And it really came out of a discussion with Mayor Saya about economic development, which is typically where you hear Garden State Initiative speak about. And what he said to us was, we can't have prosperity unless we have a safe community. So that's why we got involved with this. I'm thrilled to see the progress and really excited about passing the bill and seeing it enacted. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Regina. We appreciate your leadership. I also spoke to the state PBA president, Pat Culligan. He's expressed his support. We have with us our PBA president, Alex Cruz, and we have our SOA president, Mason Marr. Thank you for joining us as well, and they've expressed support as well. This year, we've had 12 shootings to date. 10 of them have been in our 4th Ward, and all of our homicides have been in the 4th Ward. We have with us a former mayor and current councilwoman from the 4th Ward who was passionate about ending gun violence. 2 weeks ago, Governor Murphy was here announcing that a group that deals with violence interrupters was going to receive $500,000. We can't arrest all of our problems away. We will need those grassroots organizations on the streets engaging individuals to prevent that next shooting. But as far as bail reform is concerned, we do have to take this measure. So at this time, I want to hear from our former mayor and current councilwoman Ruby Ann Cotton.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I would like to say I really, truly appreciate our legislators, our mayors from the Urban League, from the Urban Mayors Association. You know, we have many sleepless nights. Not only mayors, elected officials, council people. You know, it's so much going on, and we truly needed bail reform. You know, when it first came out, it was to help those that were not able to be able to get out, to have to stay in jail for low crimes that were not heavy crimes, and they were there for sometimes years before they were able to come forth. But you know, now you see where you have to make change. You have to make corrections, because this gun violence has truly have gotten so out of control that we need help. But I always say partnership works greatly. If you don't have the partnership with our police department, our sheriff department, all mayors talking to each other, all legislators talking to each other, seeing what we can get done to get done. And I'm happy for the sponsors who sponsored this bill to do the reform, because it is so dearly needed. I appreciate you guys and ladies very much. Thank you. God bless you.
Don't forget the ladies. Don't forget the ladies. Also want to express my appreciation to our leadership team at the police department, Chief Becora, Deputy Chiefs Phelan, Van Clive, and Rivero, Detective Captain Murray, who investigates shootings. We talk way too often. Although I enjoy our conversations, I wish the topic were different. And that's why we're here, to try to change the narrative, to try to improve the safety within a very difficult time. We live in a violent and volatile time. Gun violence is an epidemic within a pandemic. It's created despair and depression, and people have resorted to extreme means. So that's why we have to take extreme measures, like fixing a component of bail reform. Not ending it, like we said, but mending it. And Mayor Mapp, you said it best, this is a public health crisis. It isn't just a virus that we're fighting, it's violence that we're fighting. And I'm glad that we're fighting together. Thank you for joining us, and I now open the floor for questions. Anthony Johnson.
What component is being changed? Like specifically, what is it in bail reform that allows the judges to make decisions to let people with guns go free, and what needs to be changed in that area so they can stay in jail?
So there was a point system, and when people are arrested, if they don't have enough points, they're not detained for too long. And what we're saying is possession of a gun, most likely that individual didn't have good intentions. And so that individual should be detained. I cited a statistic that we got from the prosecutor's office earlier. 195 individuals were arrested with firearm charges. 75 were released. Why were those 75 released? And what happened with those 75? Because you do have shootings that are not solved. And you have individuals who are involved in multiple shootings that are not solved. Are these the same individuals? Because as some of the mayors may say, it's probably only 1% of your population that is committing the gun violence. So that could be that 1%. Yeah.
The intention in the first place, and made it clear when I met with the law enforcement, was the disproportionate amount of people of color being detained for small crimes and issues that, kept them in jail, be it parking tickets, be it, rears from child support, be it, minor, public disturbance, but not gun violence. So that was the intent. The numbers just didn't add up when it came to folks of color. You're right, and as the mayor stated, through the point system, that's why we are lawmakers and we have to make amendments when we make mistakes. So we didn't sit back and say that, no, this is it and this is where we're at. We know that we have to make mistakes. It may not be our last time. We may have to look at other issues when we look at crime numbers and statistics that don't lie and say, look, we have to make an amendment to this bill.
And it puts the judges in a place where they have to let these people go, even though they might know in their heart of hearts that they are,
Unfortunately, but that was not the intent. And unfortunately, bad players were involved. And unfortunately, when people are using guns that are stolen guns or guns that are coming up and down I-95, they had no good intent. So this is no attack on the Second Amendment, as I tell people all the time. This is for the bad guys.
And Anthony, just to dovetail on what Assemblyman Wimberly was saying, to your point, we're making guns a benchmark. That's what we're doing with this.
I've heard a lot of anecdotal evidence about this, but no one seems to be able to provide statistics. You guys have any idea how many people are actually getting on while they are out with this?
The data that we have hitherto is what I cited earlier relative to the individuals. Outside of that, it's really hard to gauge. And that's the information we receive from the Passaic County Prosecutor's Office. To date, no, but I'm sure someone's compiling that information.
Do we know if the three guys involved with the shooting of Robert had guns, charges against them?
What I can tell you is that they may have been involved in other shootings, but were never caught. Paul? Well, President Biden was here last week, and he was talking to Mayor Adams about securing borders and the iron pipeline, as the Assemblyman referred to, on I-95. So we support federal efforts, whether they're coming from Pennsylvania or the South. Yeah. Well, that would be a matter of federal enforcement. So if the president is taking this issue seriously, like we believe he is, then yes, we support his efforts. Sure.
Your side of the aisle, how do they view this issue? I mean, they're very strong on the Second Amendment. Will they be willing to go ahead and see something like this move forward?
Well, this has nothing to do with the Second Amendment. If you're a lawful gun owner, you shouldn't fear any amendment to pretrial detention, or we say bail reform. This is specifically directed on those individuals who have a gun illegally and previously had a presumption against incarceration or against detention. This takes out that presumption. If you're a judge and you say a presumption of being free versus presumption of being detained, this is a major change in law. I don't think you'll see any Second Amendment advocates object to this law.
I approve that message. Thank you. Richard?
I've heard the mayor of Trenton say that some of the guns they're getting in Trenton are from Pennsylvania. And in New York, you have a similar issue, right, where there's people talking about bail reform, but nothing like, this kind of movement that's happening here. Any concerns about this? What would you like to have in the state of New York? Because potentially, some of these people that carry these legal guns can come into New Jersey, even if you pass this law.
That's a very fair point, because I'm sure, and I think our leadership team can attest, that there may be individuals coming from New York. And that's why I made that plea to Mayor Eric Adams, that you're not alone on this issue. We're with you on this issue. And your shooters may be coming here and doing the shootings, and some of our shooters may be going to New York and doing shootings as well. So this knows no borders or boundaries, and that's why, Paul, to your point, any federal efforts to enforce these laws, illegal trafficking in guns, we wholeheartedly support. Yes?
Just to follow up, with legislators in New York, has there been any discussions regarding this?
Yeah,
Really, to say you made a mistake and we find an amendment.
right. It certainly does.
Would they do the same in New York? That's the question.
I can't answer that question. However, we're hoping that Mayor Adams, who's spearheading this effort in New York City, can convince the governor and the state legislature to rethink bail reform, specifically on the subject matter of illegal firearms. Well, Sheriff Gannon said it's not about numbers, it's about the faces, right? So if there's anything we can do outside of any data that is compiled to protect our people, we're going to do it. So we don't need to see statistics to know that we have an epidemic within a pandemic. They certainly will. We can only benefit by having the numbers, but shootings are taking place almost every day. I believe the statistic that the president used, 300 people shot every day in this country, 100 killed. We will have to stop the violence. And that would be interesting to note. However, we definitely want to tighten up this bill, knowing that it does pose a problem because some of our shootings are not solved. And at this time, I want to defer to the mayor of Newark.
I have a few statistics. I mean, you know, hopefully it'll help, you know, feed your appetite there a little bit. 200 out of 228 persons we reviewed in 2021 who were arrested for gun possession or crimes with a gun, 17% of those people reoffended again in 2022. So 2 years later, well, excuse me, 1 year later, they reoffended again. You know, so that's some data there. 7% were arrested with a gun again in 2021 before they committed another crime in 2022. So we have some data and some statistics, and you probably could provide more if we drill down on it, everybody, and present it, but I'm sure the data is there and very clear. It's not going to stop people from shooting people. Okay, go ahead, man. Well, you know, when the governor makes his assessment or, you know, his call, then we'll assess what we're doing in the city of Newark. We're just trying to keep people safe. All of us have the same goal. And when he makes his call, obviously, we'll think about what we're doing at the same time. Well, when he announces it, then we'll figure it out. He announced it to me.
He's got to get a phone call. He's the mayor of the largest city in New Jersey. Also, just to reiterate, the prosecutor's office compiling that data, and it will be helpful. And I'm glad Mayor Baraka cited some statistics. And Assemblyman was just telling me that Governor Murphy and Mayor Adams have been in contact because we have to have cross-boundary collaboration on this issue. Yes? Senator, you want to answer that question? Because we're going to advocate. If you want us to testify before any committee, please.
I don't think it's going to take very long.
Neither do I.
You see this group? They have significant influence in legislature, and the Republicans are strongly behind this, so this would be moved on a fast track, and that's unusual in Trenton.
I approve that message. Yes?
My name is Nora Davis. I'm the mayor of Summit.
Yes. Welcome.
We in our communities are completely supportive of this. Crime doesn't just stay in the urban areas, so we're very grateful that you're moving forward on this and have complete support.
Thank you, mayors. Thank you. I see Alex Zidane. We may have to end this press conference abruptly here, I'm afraid of him. Any other questions? Thank you, mayors. Thank you, law enforcement leaders. Thank you, people who care. We're here to reform bail reform. Thank you. Anthony Johnson. Uh-oh, look at him. He thinks he's in the WWF over here. Look at this guy. Thank you.
Hola, Flavio. No, que te escribí ahí para que la próxima vez le digas a ellos que aquí hay alguien, porque ellos venían.
How you doing? Aloha. You're taking good pictures, brother.
I'm working it.
I know you are. Dassel, good job.
okay. No, we're good, right?
Okay.
Aren't we? I guess.
think we got enough, so.
How you doing?
Excellent.
Good. No, don't worry about it.